Time to boogie with Amy.
Ames, where are you?
Right here.
Amy,
Oh, I can't see you. Oh, now I see you.
here she is.
Ames.
I'm here with an open mic, I think.
You are open.
Yes,
Can you hear
yes,
me?
we hear you. You
We
sound
can.
fantastic.
Okay, wonderful.
I'd like to, for those of you who are just now joining, I would like to introduce you to Amy, our amazing counselor from the Oh So North. She can touch Lebanon from where she lives, and she's got the elephant's leg right near her, which is the best place to go. And she's going to help us talk about how we can get our students reading, even if they're at home and not sitting in the class with us. Okay, and the different ways that we can get them motivated to read, because as we know, that's one of the most important things for them to do is to read. So without further ado.
Thank you. So I'm not sharing my screen. Someone's running the PowerPoint. So we can jump right to 3. Hello, readers. I'm going to continue with what Judy said. Someplace to go when we have to stay where we are, but 3 is where I want to start. I really cannot emphasize enough that the single most important thing, okay, the second, after your students are feeling safe and secure and love English in general, the greatest gift you can give all of your students, and yes, I mean the struggling non-reader 7th graders and the 3-pointers, and absolutely the 4 and 5s, is to help them become readers. And it's true, this is Krashen 1993, and some may still raise an eyebrow or giggle at Krashen, but current research still supports that when second language learners read for pleasure, they continue to improve in their second language without classes. So if we're at home, read. Without teachers, sorry to insult our audience here, without study, is it possible? And even without people to converse with, not ideal. Current research from 2020 still supports all of this. The articles that you will find that are entitled "Silence is Saying Reading Doesn't Really Help, It Doesn't Really Help," are looking at instances where it 1000% replaced explicit teaching. And I'm not saying don't take English Club, don't help your struggling readers. Of course they need to learn some orthological rules and have some explicit reading instruction. But in addition, and it's a big addition, they need to learn to become readers. And we need to give them for that a motive and an opportunity. So let's go on to the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments that we can click on, do we have time for them? I'm going to focus really on 4 of them in the next slide, but let's look at what the very first one is. And remember where you heard this, guys. The reading material is easy, and it's in bold, and I'm kind of yelling, and yes, you don't have to say you can't read that, you're a 5-pointer. You shouldn't say, oh, this is a children's book. Sorry to you, shouldn't. It's easy, it's fine, it's great. It should be pleasurable. I'm going to repeat this a few more times how we're going to see, but they should, okay, easy. That's, if you remember nothing else from the 10 Commandments, it needs to be easy. They need to have a lot of material. We'll talk about that a little more in sources of books. Because of 3, they choose what to read. I know especially in the non-reader 7th graders and the 3-point classes, teachers are so tempted to read a book aloud to the class and say, we've read a book. That's a great thing to do in addition to students choosing their own book. Students choosing what they can read and students reading at their pace. They get to read as much as possible. We'll talk about that. And it's for pleasure. That's why it needs to be easy. That's why there needs to be a great choice. It's its own reward. I'm going to contradict myself on this very soon when I suggest that sometimes some points may be an incentive, but ideally, really, they're doing it for the sake of the game. And we want to help them move to a point where they are reading because they can, because they like to, because the story is interesting, because a friend recommended. Okay? I don't know if we're going to go on to the next slide. Could we go on, Adele, or who's running my show?
I am.
Go ahead and
I'm
see.
on
So
it.
based on those 10 commandments, here's this little, you can read for yourself, but I'm reading it aloud, that Calvin, your mom and I looked over your report card. We think you could be doing better. But I don't like school. Why not? You like to read and you like to learn. I know you do. I mean, you've read every dinosaur book ever written. And everyone who knows Calvin and Hobbes, you see him reading his dinosaur books. Okay? So why don't you like school? We don't read about dinosaurs. So this is back to which of the 10 commandments? We can go on to the next, Adele. This is back to the students choose. They're reading for pleasure. So some of you may remember that John Holt book, How We Make Students Hate Reading. We're going to do the opposite of that, which is in a nutshell, make it easy, make it pleasurable, make it be its own reward. So we can go to slide 6. Thanks. And in slide 6, so we want to help the students by taking small steps, like in anything. Judy, baby steps, baby steps. I hear her say it all the time about so many things. Baby steps, baby steps. So I'm repeating, make it easy, because I warned you I would repeat that, and it's not the third or last time you've heard this. Ideally, you'll be able to sit or Zoom with your student going over the book they're trying to choose, and you should have them read aloud to you or read to themselves one page, and on that one page, they should have maybe 2 words they do not know. If they have 3, okay. If they have more than that, it will not be a pleasure. They probably won't stick with it. It's not a good idea. And you need to find the way to, if they're like, anyway, easy. 2 or 3 unknown words on a page. More than that, it's going to be too hard. However, it is also kind of important to get into speed, and we do want them to be able to read about 8 lines of a book in a minute. I'll talk about that a little bit later, that one of the tasks I want to recommend is that they time their reading. And they should be able to understand what they've read in that page, obviously. So if you think that it's often a good idea to start one level below what you believe, the levels are very problematic in my opinion. And Penguin levels are different than AEL levels that are different than. So it's really a matter of opening the book and reading a paragraph, a page, and seeing how many words are unknown. The other thing that if they're at home, so I'm going to the last, I'm talking about the last slide for a second. What they actually have, it may be an actual physical book in their hands. Judy, really our hero on so many levels, but not the least for all the work and funding she got, that there's now a book in every bag. Woohoo! So, youth villages that you're in school anyway, people that are going to be coming to school one day, half groups, off and on, until we're sent back home with your pods, if possible, get a book in every bag there, in their hand, a physical book, because you have them and use them, and they can take their books home. So if they have to stay at home, they can still show you their book. We'll talk later about getting sources of books online in the last slide, but so their book should be visible to them. If they're at home, you should tell them, keep your book by your pillow, read at night before you fall asleep, or the first thing in the morning, because when it's important, get it done first, or set up what your reading hour is going to be. There are some apps I'll talk about in a minute that can send a little reminder, ding, ding, it's time to read, that they could set. Make it attractive. Here's where I'm going to slightly contradict that reading should be its own reward. It's not really going to be its own reward until they see they can do it. And they start to love it. That's what we're helping them get to. So in helping them get to that, it is, okay, so one thing you can suggest to them is after your reading time, then you have your Instagram time, your coffee break time, you're playing your game on your phone time. And I do think, I'll talk about this a little more in a second, that it is fine and even worthwhile to acknowledge how many pages have been read, how many hours have been spent reading, how many books have been talked about. I saw a school, remind me who it was, that they actually gave an award to a kid for the most pages read that year. I think that's a fantastic idea. So make it easy, Make it accessible, make it attractive. Next slide, please. Master, runner of the slides. So, one of the, so I'm already here. I thought I was at how fast they read. Okay, so proactively make time for reading every day. Every day is a great order and I love it. We'll see if we're home completely. 20 minutes a day would be awesome. In reality, I would say that 2 or 3 times a week for 15 to 30 minutes would be awesome. Less than that won't be enough because there has to be a lot of practice and exposure and you have to give it time. So sadly, if you click on this link, you'll only see a sign up for it because the computer that I made this, whatever, Debbie will help me later, maybe actually have it. I will do a non-tech thing and show you that I have this app, Bookly, on my phone. And it is, do we want to look at it or I'll just tell you? Bookly is not an app that you read from. It's an app where you put in the title of your book. And it also allows you, when you're defining yourself, to say, how many books do you want to read this year? 3. How many hours do you want to read a week or how many pages? You can put that in. What time do you want to read? And then it will ring a little bell and say, 12 o'clock, it's reading time. Then when you read your book, you set it and it starts measuring how much you've read. So I did clink and I started reading. And when I stopped, it showed me that I had read 13 pages in 30 minutes. And it has a little place, you can't see, it's not a good way to do it. You can add a quote if you want to. You can add a thought, you can add a word, but you don't have to, especially the lower proficiency kids, where really quantity does count. Quantity is, it's the main thing here. So Bookly is a great app for them to keep track of how much they have read and how much time they have spent reading. Back to the other thing. Here, this is still left from, I don't think you'll get into it. This is still left from the beginning Corona time, but one possible way, and there are many. I have Google Classroom. I'm just having them report in the classroom. All I care about is how much time, how many pages. You don't have to give me 20 new words. You don't have to summarize what you've read yet. How much have you read? So Wiser Me is a great way to have a virtual reading log, which is very much like the paper one that I use in class, you know, the time spent reading, words. So, okay, some record of what they're doing. Let's move on. I'm not looking at time, but I'm feeling, okay. We want to create a reading culture. So
it's 12, it's 3 minutes to 12, Amy.
Oh, so I have a lot of time.
So
I'm gonna start speaking more slowly. To create a reading culture, first of all, you help them get a book they're going to enjoy. You help them get a book they're going to be able to deal with. You help them get a book that's easy enough, and you cheer them on with every page. You read a page today. Yay! You read 3 times this week. Yay! They're going to finish a book, and some of them, it's going to be the first time in their lives they have done that, and they are going to be proud. So we're not talking here, you have to do 4 book reports for literature. We're talking here, we want to read a lot. The more we read, the better we read. The better we read, the better our English is. The more we know about things. We're readers. So I'm not telling them, I'll show you later about some tasks, but in my contact with them via the WhatsApp while they're at home or in the classroom when I meet them, I just want them to let me know what they're reading. So if we're at home, they can tweet or blog just their title or their time spent reading, the number of pages or the words that they have read. Read alouds. Now, we are talking silent reading, and please do not have anyone read aloud for the entire class, because when they're reading aloud, their focus is on if they sound okay, they might get nervous. It's a one-on-one with a teacher whom they love and trust. It's great for you to be able to read to students, because then they hear the correct cadence, the fluency, the prosody that the language really needs. It's even great. I once took a course where someone had, and I've tried it with not amazing success, but one of you is going to try it and have better success. to read a small passage and give them the task of read it, imitate me in your reading. Read it until you sound like that in reading this paragraph. So some read aloud is a bit helpful sometimes. Having them just say a little something about their book. The Zoom meeting can start. They can know ahead of time. If they're the hysterical type who don't want to, don't put them on the spot. That's when they can just tweet or write in. But you can start a Zoom with, these 3 people are going to just say 2 words. They're just going to show you. I'm reading. Judy will laugh at me. I won't tell you what I'm reading because Judy will say that's not a good choice. But I am reading. I'm reading Not Everything is Impermanent. And
God, baby.
And it's actually been very thought-provoking for me for this very session because I just recently read a quote and wrote it down and can't remember it now about being dedicated to something. It matters what we dedicate ourselves to, however good or bad at fulfilling that dedication we may be. And I felt like, wow, that's teaching. That's an important thing for teaching, and definitely here with this silent reading for pleasure. And definitely remember that for all of you who feel like, but when will they practice on scenes? But they need grammar. They need this more. They need this more. Share favorite reads. Having kids say a book I loved. What happened? How come I don't see anybody? I don't see anybody.
We're good. We can
Okay.
see you. We can see the screen also.
Okay, fine. So I don't see myself, and that's okay. So now I'm not going to know what I look like. Luckily, I have. Okay. So what are we talking about? Sharing books, recommendations, having them say what they loved. And again, it can be a sentence. Book tastings and book cafe meetups. I put a link here to something that's free from Teachers Pay Teachers.
Do you want me to click that?
Where it's really a book cafe meetup. If we have time, we can just look at it. And again, if you meet in the pods, have them really come and really bring their brownies. But I would happily, it's actually better to do this in a Zoom session because then you're not worried about anybody's droplets getting in your fruit salad. Because it's really a book cafe, Kolel HaCafe, and the cake. Have you clicked on it? Because I don't see Zoom anymore, so I don't know what to do. So how do I do a Zoom that I don't see? Good question, huh?
You minimize all your internet browser
No. I like.
then you see it.
Okay.
It's possible that you'll find yourself in a little tiny box somewhere.
Wait, here. I see myself here. I see myself.
So
here.
now
below. Click on
Yay! I'm doing
the blue.
Okay, so
on the camera.
scroll down. There's actually like a Google page of assignments for this. But okay, I think we got the idea.
Okay, so this is, do you want me to get off of the article? Fun assessment for silence?
You can. They can have it and go into it at their leisure to.
Okay, we're back to the slides and I'm on slide 9.
Okay, slide 9. Okay, just like the books are easy, just like I said, we're not talking 4 tasks because it's a log and it's of a group. We're talking low pressure activities, especially for your junior highs who are hesitant, especially for your 3-pointers who are very reluctant. You can stay with these. These can become part of your tasks for a log later. For 4s and 5s, we can up the game. We have it here. Okay, so I know teachers are like, how do I know if they're really reading? How do I know if they're really learning anything? How do I know if they're really improving? So how to reduce anxiety, because it's usually the teacher who feels anxiety about this, because the students are reading for pleasure. And since we want them reading for pleasure, let's also, when in doubt, breathe out. So I think I said it before, I'm saying it again, have students keep track of the number of pages. Quantity counts. Quantity is acknowledged and rewarded and applauded. Great. Okay. A 1-minute speed reading sprint. You could do this during a Zoom, and you could do it once a week in a Zoom. Everyone have your book, have the page you're on, ready, steady. When I say go, you're going to read. And they read, and you are timing them. And then you say, ding, 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 ding. It's 1 minute. And they then count the total number of words they have read and plot it on graph paper. And what is super cool about that? What do you think they'll see after 3 months? Guess. Somebody open your mic and guess. Go, Judy, go. What do you think they'll see? I can't.
Lots of pages.
Right. Okay. They're going to see improvement, and that's going to be motivating. And they're going to see they can read faster. And good readers, fluent readers, are faster readers. Okay. And produce 3-sentence book reviews. If they're very, very weak, you can give them the starter sentence. This is a book about dogs. I like it because, or a character is a 3-sentence something about the book. What it's called, why I like it. Say 2. I don't want them doing all that, you can find online, and I have some here. You can make amazing, a book in a bag and cereal box, panorama, diorama, whatever. Read the book. That's what we care about. You're reading, fantastic. You're showing us how you're reading faster, even better. You're telling us in a sentence why you love that book. Woo! What a superhero. Okay? I think Melissa has added to this, and I spoke with Debbie, who's going to help me up the game here for more apps and things to virtually track things. But
There's some really nice suggestions in the chat and also some nice ideas. I think I'm going to copy them out of the chat, and I'm going to share this ideas with everybody.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So, you can have students on the WhatsApp. I'll let you know that with at least one class, or really with only one class, I'm nudging them every Thursday. They get a little hello from me. Hi, it's Thursday again. Can't wait to see how much you read this week. And even though it's summer vacation, every Thursday, they get a WhatsApp from Amy in their class WhatsApp saying, what you read this week, how many pages. And most of them are responding to me. And most of them are responding to me very honestly, including, I don't have any time to read, to which I read them a small riot act that there's always time, 5 minutes in bed. But a lot of contact via the WhatsApp or the Google Classroom that you are on their, I don't want to say on their case because it's a pleasurable thing, but you are in contact with them. How much have you read this week? How much did you read today? How much did you read in our reading time? You're in contact with your students about their reading. Low pressure. Then we have upping the game a bit for slightly more serious. Do we want to look at the next slide?
Sure. I just would like to answer Ofra because she wrote something, and I'm sure there are other really great questions, but I just saw that she had said this.
Okay.
There are many, 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 many books for lower level students that are not for babies. And that was why we had the book fairs. And that's why you all got the money. And that's why you all got involved with the publishers in order to be able to choose those books. There are books for lower level readers that are for teens. And that was one of the reasons why you got budget. If your school did not get any of those, then please be in touch with your counselor in order to get those. All of the students should be reading, okay? And they don't have to read Cats Love Mice. Even if they're on a lower level, there are books and leveled readers for them to go to. Okay, Amy's PowerPoint has a lot, but your counselors also have more. And every school got 6,000 shekel for this. So, and the book fairs had a plenty. Okay, so talk to your counselors and they can help you.
Right. Not the ISA. Absolutely. It's true. I think we're not supposed to plug anybody, but I think AEL especially had some high interest for teen, lower level books that are just great. They're great. They're about like a teenager.
Yeah, you're talking about by now.
Buying a motorcycle and playing a guitar in a band and fighting with his father. And there are some sports books. There are books. It is true that the online sources are less amazing for our students because they're aimed at a native speaking audience usually, but not only. We'll see in a minute when we get there, but absolutely what Judy said. And I happen to see that Nati wrote graphic novels and they're great also. Okay, so we're on to slightly more serious reading tasks that I think I'd like you to click the links because there's just a lot there. No, not you. I mean, like individual teachers, when they get the PowerPoint, can look, because this itself would take an hour to go over. There's book talks that you want to convince. So again, Zoom time, and with lower proficiency or really with anyone, in Zoom time, a book talk can be a minute, 3 sentences. What page I'm on, why I like it. The Buy This Book talks is more for 4 and 5 pointers, where their task is to convince their audience to want to buy the book. okay? And it has a rubric and explicit instructions. They need to bring a quote and they need to say why. And it's already more of the kind of book tasks that is not our emphasis, that we happen to also be doing a few of. I've given them here because people always do them, and these have been successful with us. So there's a book talk by this book that you can look at. The book ID I like quite a lot. Want to look at, or the template or an example, Adele, because this is not a lot of text and they're just gorgeous. And if you do
Template?
or a template or example, do example, look at Noga's, because okay, fine, template is fine. Now go to Noga's because it's always so cute. This is all it is. You give them this. You see, I'm pointing, you can't see my finger. You make a hyperdoc that everybody copies that slide and adds their own. They take a selfie of themselves with their book, and that's in the middle. Thank you, Adele. And then they write, recommended by Shoshi Navon, date October 8th, a quote from the book and why they recommend it. I love this book because it's full of dogs who attack people, and I love dogs. I hate people. Not really. Not really. And so just if you want to briefly go back and forth, because we love Noga's, because she did give a quote that is amusing to us. I don't know if we have time to do that though.
What do you want? What do you want? The examples?
Yeah, just
Yes, we have your time.
okay. So Noga loves. Why do we get this? Maybe we can't see Noga. So here's Noga, a teacher in my school, holding the last book she really read, because I had them do that to show the kids, and we wanted the kids to do it. George R. Martin, and the quote she took there was, "I fed my last husband to my dragon. If you knew Noga, you would be laughing. If you make me take another, I may eat him myself." So this obviously is 100 steps above what you want the kids to do. But you know what? If you have good 5-pointers, they can. They're short, they're sweet. When you make a Google Doc and they share them, it looks amazingly awesome. We can move on, or we can move back to slightly serious. Rahali's reading on an app. Okay, but we can go back. We get the idea. To slightly serious. I read that book because I know the man who wrote its daughter. So I'm not going to go into them again, but we have here another reading selfie, which is more complicated. Oh, you went down twice. I just wanted back to the red one for a second. Frayer charts, because I've become a Frayer freak. They can be done. There's just a bazillion. Well, there aren't a bazillion. There are probably 12. You know what? And maybe Debbie here, if Debbie's here, I don't know who's here, but this can be put into a choice board, because the idea here you have here, it's quite heterogeneous, from the simplest, name a character, name the setting, to what music would this character like, or who do they remind you of? There's all different kinds for you to choose. And again, you can give these are, I need to collaborate with someone and put these into choice boards, because there are a lot of choices here. Okay. So, and there's a Google Form book report. Never mind. I think people can see those on their own. I want us to go down to, where are we?
I'm on Book Bento.
Okay. So these are more things to do. Okay.
You want me to next?
Ames,
this is, yeah.
Ames, let me just say one thing. For all of you who are at the beginning of my talk, or if you're a coordinator and you heard my talk in the beginning of the week, you'll know that everyone has 17 days. And the 17-day mark is the 17 days to get to know your students. Okay, if you were at the diagnostic with Awana, you know that that's the way to learn about them as learners. All of the choice boards and icebreakers. And next we have a session about connecting with your students, doing book talks and having them take a picture of themselves with their book and showing what they like to read is another way to connect with your students, and also have your students connect with each other. Okay, and with all of my counselors, nobody reads the books that I read. Okay, I read really strange books.
That's
okay?
not true. One year we
Yes,
had a book club,
totally
and then we all
true.
read The Magic Library.
I know, totally true. But I read really weird books. Okay, no one reads the books I do, but I'm sure that if I were in all of you guys, if I said, you know, the types of fantasy books that I read or whatever, then there would be other people who would read, and I would feel that sense of attachment and belonging. A lot of times, showing the book that they chose in the library and talking about it is a way to connect also between students. So in this world of social distancing, sometimes what we read is an actual connector between students, and it's important for them to have that opportunity to connect even through reading. Okay? Sorry, Ames.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was thinking about that this morning. It's a big part of, I'll have you know that I still remember some students who have graduated, who loved what and who was reading what. It really is part of your relationship with your student, for them to tell you a little bit about the book, and for you to, you know, I've read books that students, that 5-pointers read, that I became interested in, like you convinced me. That's how I thought of the Buy This Book Talks, actually.
Also, it's really nice for you to run with your staff,
A book
not
club.
just with your students, to either have a book club, because now it's on Zoom and you don't actually have to go and sit at anyone's house, but even just to get on a Zoom and talk about the books that you read and recommend a book or whatever, that's also a really nice idea.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Do you want me to?
So I want us to talk a wee bit about finding books. So as I said at the beginning, we have a book in every bag, thanks to Judy and Reed, and really make sure that we don't know how many days we will stay there. So if you get in there for a day, bring the library books to your classroom, help kids choose one that are appropriate, then they can take it home with them, and make sure they do that also. Like, put it in your bag and have it back and forth all the time, so they don't go home and say, my book is in school. I personally am, some like to read on the apps anyway. I think also for the lower proficiency, as we said, since we found some high interest, low language books, it's great for them to take them home. But I've given here some places to get things to read online. And there's a variety here. And who was it earlier that was concerned about the material? It is true that these are geared at native speakers. So we will find, except for, so let's look at 2 or 3 here. ER Central, can you click on that, Adele, please? Has books with students. So you can choose by, oh, actually, I wanted this to be last, I think. Click on any one of them and see what it does. I need to, no, click on a book. Click on any book. What book do we want to look at right now? Let's look at Malcolm X. Okay, let's look at Hannah's First Day of School. Yeah, but then people will say that really is for, you can read it. Click. So here, this is not that simple. This is 4 and 5 pointers. There's another site I'm going to show you in a minute that says if it's A1 or B1 and is using the CFR. But as you see, what they have to do is, I think they need to actually sign up for this site. And they have a library, and it can show what they have read, what they have finished. Okay? Search the text. Go for a second, Adele. If this is the site that have it, search by level. Are the levels here 0 to 10? They're not the A1s. Right. Okay, so that's less helpful for us, really. But okay. Yes, Gabi, me phone to everyone. You're going to receive the presentation. Let's go back. So there's a pretty wide choice in this English reading, and they have an option here when they to click on a word they don't know. Many books. This is for a higher level, but I want us to look at it. The second one. No, you've already gone down to reading the story. We usually end with that. Okay. This is really 4 and 5 pointers. Now we need to be careful here, because they have here some of the books that Judy wants us to all throw away from the library. You know, the Jane Eyre originals and the gray covered versions of Alice in Wonderland that, oh no. But they also have fantasy books and science fiction that Judy does like, and horror that some of the kids like. They're usually very difficult. These are, I think, sort by, you should be able, let's look at 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea for a second. I think this is the site that has, so here you can either read it online or download it onto your app. Okay? And what this does that's kind of nice is there's a little book excerpt. So if you're sitting with them to help them choose, obviously this is a 5-pointer, not a struggling student, just by how dense and small the text is. But if you know, for them to choose what they want, they can look at a little excerpt in terms of also the language and also the topic. Okay, Adele, can you scroll up to see if this is the site that did it by, also not. That's so weird. I know one of my sites uses the CFR levels. Okay, maybe English e-reader. What does that do? I did look at these last night, but I don't remember them by English e-reader. No thanks. I don't want notifications. I think I get them anyway. So here you need to log in. Scroll up. Does it have get by? Look at library for a second. So again, when you're in
Here,
school,
A1, A2.
right? Okay, I knew there was one of them. So this is up. You know, this is, oh, we're on the map with Europe, and we're using the CFER thing. See, what is it? Judy, help me.
CFR.
Right. Another recommendation on the first week of school, when you are meeting kids in pods, in addition to helping them get an actual physical book, help them sign up for sites that might be okay for them and show them what they need to do. You can download it onto your phone, or you can read it on your screen at home. Let them know how to sign up, help them do that while you're helping them choose, okay? And Tyler, I love her. Okay, so, but I must admit, like the level also here, if you look at even A1, Adele, do we have time to do that? Because even A1,
Yes, it would be good to do that.
I'm already hearing my 3-pointers saying way too hard for us. Look at what is considered a starter, not animal life cycles, because like let's look at the boy who couldn't sleep. Or you want to look at Incredible Earth? Fine. Because it's Read for the Planet. Max has been an unusual boy since early childhood. In my school, that's a 4+ pointer. That is not the 3-pointers, dudes. But you know, we're joining Europe, and it's good for us to know this is considered A1, egads. Okay. Now, okay. The English e-reader. I don't know how many we're gonna. Oh, we went all the way to the end. All done. Wait, go back for a sec. Okay, we don't have time to go into all these. Should we pick and choose or think what we want to do? The
You've
English.
got 9 minutes left.
Okay, the British Council. Many of
And
you are
let
familiar
them,
with it.
Amy, why don't
Yeah.
we let them ask some questions maybe?
Okay, I just will say very briefly about this, and then I'll take and then we'll take questions, all of us. Storyline Online is a lot of different celebrities, such as Oprah Winfrey and others. They are children's books. Those of you who participated in the winter, we read, what was it that we read about the dragon? And they're adorable because you see the print and these are books for children. They are read aloud and they're awesome. Do you want to do one? If you put dragon in the box, you'll get the, we don't have time. We don't have time. No. People can go do that on their own. They're going to get the presentation. But there's also Starfall that really is for children. But in junior high, it's also okay. And back to the presentation, Adele, because we're finishing up. Storyline. Oh, I have Storyline twice. I'm going to change that. Starfall is really for elementary native speakers, but it has stories that they can hear and see. There is that issue of it being a bit juvenile, but this is what we found so far. I'm still searching all the time. And the gift lingua, I'm actually really not fond of. It's at the bottom of my list. Everything else, it's rather arbitrary, the order. But book gift lingua, it's really not a book. It's really a text. Okay. However, that really does have something that's an appropriate level for the very low proficiency and the struggling learners.
You want me to go into it?
Okay, if we have time, we can look at one so that you'll see that it's not a book and that it is for struggling readers. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be awesome. Here's what, okay, but then when you click on it, but you went to level 4 already. Don't go to level 4. So, okay, so first of all, it's a computer reading it. You go berserk. There goes prosody. Click next, and it leads to the next page. Yeah, there's next there.
Yeah, it's not.
Our ears are amazing. We can hear so many sounds.
Haley, you sound better than that.
Some sounds like water in a stream are soothing.
Next.
Some sounds we just can't stand.
Like
Okay, we got the idea. So for me, it's a problem because it's really more like a text. It's very, very short. It's a sentence a page. It's a computer reading, which drives me berserk. But it's something I found and some of them are easier than that. Okay, so I just want to remind you, We're trying to create people who love to read. We're doing that by showing them that we are such people, by loving and appreciating and acknowledging every step they take towards that, by making sure what they have is easy, pleasurable, by giving them lots of time. Don't say, in addition to your homework, read 20 minutes. Say, your homework is reading. That's all it is. Reward and applaud, even stars and certificates. I didn't get to
Okay.
it, but I've heard of people who bribe. It's time to take questions.
Amy,
Thank
you've
you.
been amazing. I could listen to you all day long. I love your voice and I love what you have to say. We've got so many great questions here that I want to save some time for that.